Hello, friends, and welcome to the Cold War Prepper Tuesday night nonfiction book club. So tonight we're going to be continuing with chapters 3 and 4 of Arthur T. Bradley's book, the Handbook to Practical Preparedness, Disaster Preparedness for the Family. So a couple of interesting things. I'd like to make a couple of announcements. Gosh, I'm getting some fantastic people for interviews. And some of those are coming up here real quick. So far we've done 3. We've done Van City Prepper. She's changed her name now to Alpine Preparedness. We've done Prepping with Faith, and then we've also done one with Prepping with Sarge. Now, Prepping with Sarge is coming back, and on January 7th at 7 p.m. I know it's an hour earlier than normally. It's also on a Saturday. Hi, Scott. And so I typically don't do things on Saturday. However, he has work. And so, we have to kind of accommodate that. But we're going to have Prepping with Sarge back. So at 7 o'clock, Saturday the 7th, so everything's sevens, we'll be spending the hour talking about mental health, how to prepare yourself for the stresses, rigors, and everything else of an SHTF environment. And then we're also going to be talking about how you handle people who lose it, who can't adapt to the new world after SHTF. So going to be very interesting. The guy has a lot of knowledge about that, and I'm looking forward to it. I also have a couple more fantastic people coming in. Prepper Dog has agreed to do an interview. Jason, the Angry Prepper. Then we've got, I have 2 that I want to kind of put on together because, gosh, they interact so well and they add to each other. And that's Texas Redleg and the Roaming Prepper. Those 2 just phenomenal. But anyhow, so we got all kinds of great interviews coming up. I'm trying to do the interviews on Monday nights, and then the book club, of course, on Tuesday nights. Then we have the last Thursday of the month. And so the last Thursday of this month, we're discussing, where did I put it? Volume 2 of Surviving Home. Now, Toolman Tim has contact information with the author of that book. And so he's trying to get me permission to interview him. And but he's also on volume 6. So while we're doing volume 2, he's doing volume 6. It's at the same time. I sent him an apology and I said, I really don't like stepping on your toes and having a live at the same time that you do. And he said, don't worry about it. He says, one of the things he learned a long time ago in YouTube is you're always going to step on somebody's toes because so many people have so many lives and videos and everything out at the same time. So, he says, don't worry about it. He says, just we're in this together. So what a great guy, Toolman Tim. Please subscribe to him. Okay, so let me see. We got Dragon Slayer. Welcome. And Dragon Slayer and I, he was commenting on my last video. And so I wish him the same experience I had reading that little bitty book. And gosh, it's fantastic. There's just so many good things that are happening out there that kind of offset a lot of the bad things that are happening out there. So, if we can just stick together and support each other, gosh, what a wonderful world this will be. So let's get into Dr. Bradley's book. And oh, by the way, what I was doing in preparation for this is I'm rereading this one, and you can see my tabs and everything. And gosh, the last time I read this, I was like a junior in high school, and this was in the future because I graduated from high school in 1970. So I guess I read it about 1968, 1969, somewhere in that era, and it was still in the future. And now we see how realistic it really is. Okay, so we start off, and did most of you catch Nutrient Survival's broadcast today? So I want to start off with that. because something very, very appropriate. We're talking here, chapter 3, we're talking about food. Chapter 4, we're talking about water. Nutrient survival. So just do a search for nutrient survival on YouTube and subscribe to them at 4 o'clock Central every day this week and every day next week. They're giving away freeze-dried food. They're giving away their own nutrient-enhanced freeze-dried food. And so I want to recommend, as a matter of fact, I have one set up as a prop. I don't know if you've noticed it or not, but underneath my Jace Medical there's a can of Nutrient Survival. And I have another can I got out of my storage so I can show you that's discussed here in the book. But please get in that so you can get some free food, free freeze-dried food. Just strongly advocate them. They are a great company. The CEO, Eric Christensen, and Becky McGaw are just two phenomenal people. They kind of do their lives. And then Bobby is the guy behind the scenes who does all the filming and everything else. And just a great trio that does a great job. They give away an awful lot of great stuff. Another one who's good at giving stuff away is Alaska Prepper. He just had his Christmas 25 gifts of Christmas, and he gave away all kinds of antibiotics. He gave away a couple solar generators, just all kinds of stuff. Oh, which reminds me, today I signed off on the plans. I'm increasing the amount of solar panels on my roof by 50%. So when they installed it at 90% of average consumption. Well, I consume more in the winter. I'm sorry, in the summer than I do in the winter. So if you average that out and take 90% of that, man, I'm falling short in the summer. So we've decided that we want to keep it so that even with the battery pack, if something were to happen, we would have about 90% of what we would need on a regular basis, to even include running a little bit of air conditioning. So, that's something exciting that we've got going on there. Let me put my eyes on. How many people here watched Nutrient Survival today? Just really, really interesting thing. So the question was, is Xmas good or bad? And so, we're talking about the ch and the ro. So if you take a look, this is my rosary bag. So if I can get it here where you can see it. So you got the ch here, and then the ro. So Chi-Rho, basically in Greek, which is in Ch-Rho in Russian, which is Christos in Russian. And of course, it's Christos in Greek. So XR is the beginning of Christos. And then, of course, you have the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. But so in the ancient, in Russian, in the Orthodox Church, and in the ancient church, X stood for Christos. So that's part of that, for those of you who weren't aware of that. So, okay, let me see. Gray Man Prepping is doing a giveaway tomorrow with Nutrient Survival and some silver dollars as well. Yes, and so I strongly encourage you to go to that as well. I have a doctor's appointment. We'll see if I can make it back from then or not. I am so excited because my acupuncturist she is in such great demand that I've gone now 3 weeks without acupuncture. So I'm back on a cane because of the pain in my leg. But when I'm getting my acupuncture at least once a week, the pain in my leg is taken care of, and I can walk even long distances, a long distance from the car to the shop, to the entrance to Walmart or something like that. And then I pick up a cart and walk with a cart. But gosh, that acupuncture is so great. So I hope I can make it back in time tomorrow for Gray Man's thing. I've got to send Becky an email and ask if I can't do the same thing. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the things we got here as far as banners. So on page 30, it talks about a tip, and it says a self-replenishing food source is the only way to truly be prepared for long-term disruption. And so what we're talking about there is basically, growing your own food. So the best way to be prepared for the future is to ensure that you're growing your own food. I got to find a way to get rid of this. Video pad keeps popping up. There we go. I think I've got it disabled. And growing your own, having a supply of seeds, making sure you have some good dirt to grow things in. Hi, Pat. Don't worry. Yeah, I'm just so happy you're here. Hi, Pepper Journey. So happy you're here too. Just join the crowd. But anyhow, having everything you need. So there's a lot of good books out there about bucket container growing. One of my favorite books is called Square Foot Gardening. And that's what I used when we lived in Arizona, gosh, 32 years ago. And so any kind of bucket gardening or anything else that you can do in storing seeds and having some good soil and some good ways of adding nutrition to the soil so that the plants can grow is going to be fantastic. I had a worm farm. And with that worm farm, I produced all kinds of worm tea. So I have all kinds of natural fertilizer, worm tea fertilizer. I have a tower garden, and one of these days I'll show you that. But that has worms in it as well. And so it has a combination of a composting area in the center. It has the worms that go through. Not only do they aerate the soil, but they also produce their worm tea, and then that goes down to the bottom. You can collect it and then pour it on top. So everything is recyclable, and you're also creating the composting in the center tube. So just a fantastic way of growing stuff. Now, don't get your expectations up too high as far as growing your own food. I forget his name. There's a half Filipino guy who does. He has a fantastic gardening channel here on YouTube, and he did a 20 by 40 plot of land in his backyard where he grew flour. And so after he grew the flour, after he thrashed it, after he ground it and everything else, that 20 by 40 crop of flour was barely enough to make one loaf of bread. So don't think that you're going to be able to live completely off of a backyard garden. If you do, it's going to be off of mostly vegetables. You aren't going to have things like corn and wheat. That would take a lot more space and a lot more concentrated farming. Let me see here. Yeah, save all the seeds you can. Absolutely. Then he also talks about start small. Get a 30-day supply to get you started, and he recommends starting with the common stuff you're going to eat at home most of the time. So do canned goods, kits and things like that. I wholeheartedly agree. That's how I got started, was basically on canned goods, rice, beans. You're going to find this strange. I remember giving away a 5-gallon bucket of lentils when I left Goodfellow Air Force Base in 1984, January of 84 is when I left Goodfellow Air Force Base. And I had all these lentils stored. You're not going to believe this, but tonight, for the first time in my life, I ate lentils. So, gosh, I was storing them 40 years ago and had never eaten them. So there goes that old adage of eat only what you store and store what you eat, or whatever. But I found out that I like them. And so we had some Indian Madras lentils for dinner this evening that we purchased at Costco, and they're pretty good. So that kind of, a little secret there. Let me see. Let me get up here. I want to get to, I'm on this top thing, and I want to get to live. So let me see here. I guess I am on live for the comments. Yes, as a matter of fact, look at this. I've got one left. So just pulled this. My wife pulled this off the vine last night. So we have the little bitty cherry tomatoes, and So she brought one in for me last night, and I forgot to water them today. That's a terrible thing, but we do have. She told me we do have at least a dozen more. And this is outdoors on the back porch. We're in the 50s right now here in Central Texas. So it's still good growing weather. Um, Hello, Susan's Ramblings. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And let me see here. So, and one of those trite expressions that we say in prepping, store what you eat and eat what you store. And, that kind of, I guess I broke that with that lentil story. But anyhow, get what your family likes. Now, my family, Helen, if I buy anything other than Wolf Brand chili, she won't eat it. If I buy anything other than Allen's green beans, she won't eat them. So we have our peculiarities, and we have our own preferences and things like that. Bush's beans, things like that. So here is where the conundrum exists. Sometimes, in order to get what you want, to get a brand name food, it's going to cost more money. So you have to kind of make up your mind what your priorities are. Do you want things that are going to satisfy your food preferences, or do you want to get more of something and not meet your preferences so that you can get more food and last for a longer period? Or my preferred option is maybe a little bit of a mix of both. So you're going to have some of the things you prefer, but also you're going to not stock up on all the things you prefer, just some of them, and then get some of the other lower quality things at less expensive cost, so that you can have maybe 3 meals for the price of 2. So those are some of the decisions you have to make individually. And we can talk about those. Let me see where we are here. Hi, Happy Hickman. Welcome. 80 in Houston. Yeah, see, it was 52 this morning, but here in the Austin area, I'm sure it's quite a little bit warmer. Let me check what it is right now, because you guys are just as due north as we are. Going from here to Houston is actually due east. 70. So right now it's 70 here. Unbelievable. And that's at 8 o'clock at night. So there we go. Look, I just got something come across that Russia is on high alert. There have been more attacks on Russia, and Poland is claiming it's mobilizing for war. Okay, that sounds exciting. Then on page 33, he talks about shelf-stable milk and powdered milk and getting your milk supplies up. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. Walmart, I know, has some shelf-stable milk. So does HEB, which is our local grocery store. When I was stationed in Germany and living on the economy, so you can either live on post with the military or you live on the economy. Well, I was at a remote intercept site way up on the north, actually in the British Army, the Rhine area. So it was on the east-west German border. And our closest American base to where we were was like a 2-hour drive away. So that's, gosh, at 100 kilometers an hour, 200 kilometers, 120 miles away. So we were living and eating with the Germans, what they ate and everything. So I got paid a little bit extra to do that. And you go into the German grocery store, they did not have milk like we do. Everything they had on the shelves was shelf stable. So, we have an aversion to it here because of the fresh milk. But I tell you what, shelf stable milk, the boxed milk that you don't have to refrigerate, is fantastic milk. And we lived off of it in Germany. So, I have no problems with that whatsoever. Hi, Gay. And let me see. Oh, wow, Susan, 17 degrees. Oh, my goodness gracious. It got down in February of 21. It got down to 7 here when we had Snowmageddon. And that's what I want to avoid is, with all these extra, hopefully I'll get my extra solar panels in before we get any more freezes or before we have any more wars. We'll see what happens. Okay, on page 35, he comes up with my daily food plan, and it's really what he sends you to is what he recommends is choosemyplate.gov, which is a nutritional way of planning your meals. And so I really like the idea of planning a meal ahead of time. So let's say in my meal planning system, meal number one is chili and rice. So I know that in order to feed my family a meal of chili and rice, I need 1 can of chili and I need 2 cups of rice. Okay. So now that gets transported over to my purchasing system so that I know what I need to purchase in order to sustain that. Well, the other thing is, guess what? According to the government, choosemyplate.gov, I am woefully short of 2 things. I need another vegetable, and I have the protein with the chili, and I have the carb with the rice. I need a vegetable and I need a fruit. And so, if you follow this, then you say, oh gosh, maybe I'd better pick up a can of pineapples for the fruit, and maybe a can of beans for the vegetable, or a green vegetable, or something like that. But it gives you something to help you in your planning so that you have a very well rounded meal and you're getting all the nutritional values that you need. So here's for those of you who haven't gotten the book, there's my daily food plan. So he's talking about getting the 5 major things you want: a grain, a vegetable, a fruit, dairy, and then a protein. And so that's a pretty good idea. From pages 36 on, for quite a distance here, uh, he's talking about grains, dairy, proteins, where you can get them from, etc. And then on page 39, he shows a real neat picture, and that's this picture right here, which is a food storage system. And so the food storage system is from a company named Shelf Reliance. Well, in 2009, Shelf Reliance changed their name. And so that same system is now available, and you can get it in the stuff down below, Lee's Prep. .thrivelife.com. And because in 2009, Shelf Reliance changed their name to Thrive Life. And so this is one of those things where I'm talking about, this is going to cost you a little bit more to get the freeze dried shrimp. Uh, you can get 2 cans of freeze dried ground beef for the same cost of 1 can of shrimp. So you kind of have to ask yourself the question of, do you want to splurge every once in a while and have a meal that's going to make you feel more, oh, a morale enhancer, or would you rather just take that amount of money and buy 2 cans of ground beef? Each one's going to have 7 servings. So for the same amount of money, you can have 14 servings of ground beef or 7 servings of shrimp. And that's just one of those decisions you kind of have to make in your own food storage preps. Pages 41 to 44, he does a very good job of talking about foodborne illnesses. So salmonella, jejuni, Clostridium perfringens, E. coli, Shigella, Clostridium botulinum, which is botulitis, and Staphylococcus aureus. So all those different foodborne diseases. Now, a lot of them come from different infectious parasites, or what do you call them? Bacteria. from different ways that you improper food handling, improper food preparation, not cooking something thoroughly enough. Uh, some of them, for example, um, can be because it was exposed to fecal matter during growth. So, in a lot of the third world countries, they will use sewage as a form of fertilizer, and so that can cause some diseases, especially botulitis. Then, of course, not washing your hands while you're preparing food. If there's any dirty stuff on your hands, that can get commingled with the food. When I had my food service license to serve, for the disaster response business that I had, we learned all kinds of things. Like, number one is when you have a cooler and you're going to have raw meat in it, you don't want to have that raw meat cooled through ice, because as the ice melts, it's going to impregnate the raw uh, meats, and then that's going to carry those bacteria from the raw meat over into anything else that's at that level of the liquid that's been melted. So one of the things you might want to consider if you're going to be storing your meat or anything like that um, in a cooler is, instead of using ice cubes or that you buy from the store, consider getting some ice bottles, some of those little 1 liter bottles or whatever. Stick those in the freezer, and then when it melts, it stays inside the container, and it's not going to cause any kind of cross contamination among meats and other things that might be in your cooler. Hi, Moonsprout, welcome. And let me see if anybody's got. Okay, I want to make sure I'm not missing any great comments. So on page 45, he talks about how to avoid food poisoning. So number one is clean. Make sure you have a clean facility. Make sure you wash your hands before you cook. Um, you don't want any fecal oral contamination whatsoever. This is often caused by dirty hands. If you've gone to the bathroom and then didn't wash your hands properly when you came back. One of the big things that they're big on with health inspections is they want to see that the paper towel trash can is close to the handle for the bathroom. And so when you wash your hands, you turn off the knobs for the dishwasher or for the sink with the paper towel, not with your hands. Remember, you went in, you turn the water on with dirty hands and you wash your hands. Now, if you touch that handle, you've touched a contaminated thing, so your hands are dirty again. So I want you to take the paper towel, dry your hands, turn the knobs on the sink, and then use that same towel to handle the door, to open the door, because if somebody else walked out with dirty hands and they have their hand inside that knob, you're going to cross contaminate and you're going to contaminate your hands again. So I want you to use that paper towel, open the door, and then throw it. And then that's why they want the trash receptacle right there by the door, so you can throw that paper towel down at the door. So I got a 5-point loss in one of my inspections because I got in a hurry and turned the knob off on the sink before with my hand instead of with a paper towel. So just to let you know that's one of the things. My prepper journey, absolutely dry ice. Now let's talk about this. So there's two things. There's number one, which is to keep food cold. So that's the refrigeration portion of it. So the definition of refrigeration is lower than 40 degrees Fahrenheit. So ice, regular water that's been frozen, maintains it at 32 degrees. It doesn't get any colder, doesn't get any warmer. It's 32 degrees. If you want to get your food to the freezing temperature, which in America, according to our food safety standards, is 0 degrees Fahrenheit, you have to use dry ice. Now, here's the thing. Anytime you have heat, it rises, and anytime you have cold, it goes down. So what you can do is you can put a layer, so that, let's say you want to keep your meat frozen down below, you put your dry ice on top of it. That keeps the meat frozen. then anything above that's going to be slightly higher than 0 degrees. So that's going to keep it cool. So you can put your vegetables on top, your meats on the bottom, no cross contamination because it doesn't melt the same way that water does. It's basically carbon dioxide, so the gas is not going to cross contaminate like melting water would cross contaminate. Hi, Navigating the Nonsense. We were just talking about you the other day. Great to see you. And Linda Bopp. So the other thing he says is separate, so to prevent cross-contamination, separate raw meats, poultry. One of the things they told us was never, ever use the same cutting board or same cutting utensils for any other meat other than poultry. So you want to keep your poultry stuff separate from your other stuff unless you go through a complete hygienic cleansing, sanitizing, and everything else. That evidently poultry is the dirtiest of all the meats, and it can easily contaminate your other meats if you aren't extremely cautious and don't make sure that you keep that clean. Now, canned chicken is okay because it's already cooked, so most of that cross-contamination value won't be there. But and the same thing with freeze-dried or dehydrated chicken. It's going to be a lot safer than a raw chicken. Number 3 is make sure you cook things to the proper temperature. And then number 4, make sure that you keep them chilled. So we talk about the danger zone. So let me read this paragraph to you so I don't forget anything. But it says refrigerate leftovers and takeout foods within 2 hours. So we had to have timestamps on anything we put out on the line. So you could only have a food in the safe zone. So for food that was warmer than 140 degrees, and for cold things, cooler than 40 degrees. So you could keep them in those 2 temperature zones for up to 4 hours. Then after that, you had to destroy them. But anything that was between 40 and 140 was considered the harmful zone. So if anything measured that temperature, when an inspector came, it had to be thrown out immediately. So refrigerate perishables as quickly as possible after purchase. Keep cold foods cold, 40 degrees for refrigerated, 0 for frozen. Never defrost food at room temperature. Most food can be thawed in 1 of 3 ways, either in cold water, microwave, or refrigerator. Food thawed in the microwave or in cold water should be cooked immediately. So those are just some of the things you want to consider. Unfortunately, I don't think microwaves are going to be that common in a post-SHTF environment. I like Linda Bopp, what she says here. After she works with poultry or any type of meat, she uses bleach to clean everything. Yeah, or you can also use any kind of common spray disinfectant to disinfect the items that you're using. So then he has a fantastic table 3-2. I just like this book because of all the tables and information. Table 3-2 is what is the safe minimum temperature, internal temperature to cook most meats and fish so that you know that it's safe to consume. Then he goes into product dating. And not he's asking him out for a drink or anything like that. Let me see here. Yeah, it's this one here. So he talks about product dating, which can be best by dates, use by dates, sell by dates, expiration dates, the differences among all those definitions and what they actually mean and everything else. Later on, he's going to tell us that even canned foods, if you keep them at 0 degrees Fahrenheit or colder, that they will have an indefinite shelf life, that they can basically last forever. Yes, isn't that the truth? And so Helen and I both went through that, and she catches me quite often here at home. Where do you get dry ice? I was getting mine from H-E-B, which is our local grocery store. And then when I went to motorcycle rallies or I went up to serve food at Texas Motor Speedways, I would get it at Walmart. So both of them have basically, it looks like a ice cream freezer upright. and it has a lid on it, and it has a pair of gloves right there by it. And so you're going to buy it by the brick, and it's usually like a 1 or 2 pound brick. And you can, do you take the gloves, take it out because you'll burn your hands if you take it out with your hands. You want to use the gloves, put it in your shopping bag. They'll measure the weight, and they charge you by weight, and then you can take it. And then you want to keep it as airtight as possible. Here's another little secret: if you don't want to buy um, oxygen absorbers, and you are going to be putting it into like 5 gallon tubs or something like that for uh, uh, food storage, what you can do is you can also buy the dry ice and set it on top, because as dry ice melts, it produces carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is slightly heavier than air, so it's going to go down and push all the oxygen out and just leave carbon dioxide inside the bucket. Then when it's pretty melted, you put the lid on top of it, and you've got an oxygen-free environment. So, that's one of the things. Thank you, Diane. Appreciate that. Um, yes, yes. And so I had we were going to eat um, chicken a la king and rice. And I opened the can, and didn't look right, and I threw it away. And this was like from 2017. Opened another can, it didn't look right. Opened another can, it didn't look right. I threw 3 cans away. I said, "Doggone!" So I opened one that was only like 6 months old. They all looked the same. I threw away 3 cans for nothing. But I, caution is far, far better than a disease. I can guarantee you that. So then on pages 47 on, yes, and yeah, we just talked about that. Make sure you use different cutting boards, different cutting instruments, and everything else uh, based upon, and never use it crossing between raw chicken, and anything else. Uh, Pretty much the same. You want to make sure you clean your utensils and your cutting surfaces in between any two products, and that's just the safest thing to do. Um, yeah, and probably the one thing with uh, store bought pasta or tomato sauce or anything like that that's very acidic. If you get it in a glass jar, that certainly is going to last you a lot longer than it will in a can. So, glass pasta sauces, tomato sauces, high acidic things, get them in glass, and they could last you almost indefinitely. Uh, Pages 47 to 51, he has very exhaustive shelf life tables. So, starts off with baking powders. Recommended storage time is no more than 18 months. Baking soda, 2 years. Beans, dried beans, 1 year. Biscuit, brownie, muffin mixes, 9 months. So he's got about 8 pages of all the recommended maximum storage times for all these different things. So like solid Crisco, 8 months, things like that. Then on page 52, 53, 54, he does the same thing all over again. He's talking about frozen. So if you keep something frozen or refrigerated, how long can you keep it? So the one thing they taught us in food handlers course was, once I've served an item and I put it in the refrigerator, on the fourth day, it's either eat or trash. But then if you freeze it within 1 day of the time that you put it in the refrigerator, so that now you have it and you're using it for longer term storage, then you can use the freezing timetable. So let's take one for an example here. Fried chicken, it says you have to refrigerate it and for a max of 4 days, But if you freeze it before the end of those 4 days, then you can keep it frozen for 4 months. So that's kind of those tables that he's got on refrigerator freezing of different items. And I do the same thing. And so one of the things that I do, Happy Hickman, is I avoid, especially for my storage, anything that has sugar in it. So, corn flakes, Rice Krispies, um, what's it called? Shredded wheat, Cheerios, unflavored Cheerios. Those are all great cold cereals to store. Once you now they will be a little bit stale. Even though they're in a nitrogen pack, they will be stale after a while, but they won't corrupt as easily as one that has sugar on it. Say Frosted Flakes instead of Corn Flakes, or Sugar Pops or something like that. Those can get stale extremely fast. They can also get corrupt very fast. Um, Hi, Pioneer Spirit. Welcome. Yes. So the best thing you can do is smell things. That's going to be one of your best. Smell and color. Does it look right? Does it smell right? And you know, if those two are there and you cook it properly, then you can taste it. But if it doesn't look right, if it doesn't smell right, don't even consider. Cooking it at that point is not going to fix the problem. The problem is already inherent to the food. Just dispose of it and stay safe. Well, that could be penicillin from the bread. No, no, I don't know. Yeah, we've got the same thing. I was telling the wife that we have an old refrigerator with the sanitary water and everything that comes through, and the ice maker and all that kinds of stuff. And we have that out in the garage. And I told her that I needed to go disinfect it. It looked like we were getting a little bit of mold in that old water tray. Uh, so let's see here. Okay, then he begins talking about freeze-dried, dehydrated, and MREs, and he gives you shelf lives for them as well. So a couple of my favorites, and in here he's got some pictures of Shelf Reliance, and like I said, that's Shelf Reliance changed. Let me see, is that Shelf Reliance or do they already have the Thrive in here? Ah, so it's strange. He has the Shelf Reliance shelving, but then he has the Thrive Life cans. So I guess this was published right at the changeover when they changed their name from Shelf Reliance to um, Thrive Life. There we go. So anyhow, so this is freeze dried. This has a shelf life of 25 years. Uh, Now, a lot of this stuff, if it's vegetable, if it's a fruit, if it's a um, bread mix or something like that, once you open it, you have to consume it within 1 year, as long as you keep it sealed with this rubber seal, with this can seal. So all those things, you've got a shelf life of 1 year after it's opened. With the meat products and some of the dairy products, the cheeses especially, once you pop the top on that, even though it has that plastic seal, you're going to have a maximum, in most cases, very maximum of 6 months if refrigerated. With the meats, if it's not refrigerated, and if we're in a post SHTF environment, you don't want to keep that more than about 2 weeks, um, because it's just going to go bad. So that's why I buy, even though it costs more. This is the pantry can. This is a number 2.5 can in comparison to the number 10 can. So this is 7 servings. The number 10 can is 22 servings. So a little bit more than 3 times the amount of food at twice the price. So it's far better economics to buy the bigger can. But the way I'm thinking is there's only the two of us. And if I've got to eat this can within a week or two after I open it, and it's just the wife and I, then, I would rather have this than have to have, 11 meals out of the larger can. So for me, I just don't want to waste things. I don't want to throw things away because we haven't eaten them or we've forgotten about them or anything like that. So I get the smaller cans usually, just so that I'm not wasting anything, throwing anything away when I have to open it at the end. Um, Call me crazy. My wife was too, and I've convinced her otherwise. So yeah. Huh. That's good information to know, Dragon Slayer. Thank you. Yeah, and I think who oh, no, it was Navigating the Nonsense, that just recently, she had a really good video where she was taking some, let's call it a dump video, but she had, like, help me here, I think she had 4 or 5 components, uh, that she opened up that were close to or had already expired or something, and put those all into one container and cooked that, and had a what was it? A combination soup, I guess. You can explain more about that, and feel free to put that link down there too, navigating if you want to. I think that was a very good, far more courageous than and also far more, uh, what is it? Creative than I am. So I'm jealous. So okay, 5 damaged cans from the move is what the video was, and she dumped all these into one pot and kind of made it into a soup and served that. So uh, yeah, and so and that's one of that's that. Gosh, I can't emphasize that enough. We have to weigh all kinds of things when we're talking about our food budget. We just have to all these things have to be considered. You know, Number one, cans have water in them, which is fantastic. Freeze dried, MREs, dehydrated don't. Where are you going to get the water from? So I like to have a combination of both. I would like to buy more freeze dried, but it's expensive. I can get more, of the canned goods, far more canned goods for the price of one can of freeze dried. However, that now we're talking about space. How much space is it going to take up? So there's all these gives and takes, and you've got to come up with a plan of your own on what you're going to do as far as coming up with your own methodology of freeze dried, canned goods, dehydrated MREs, etc. Um, I'm not that big of an MRE fan, but you know, of course, that comes from my military experience. Um, Now, it also has a fantastic comparison chart here for planning, and this is on page 59. For planning, whether you want to have MREs dehydrated, freeze dried, or canned. So, and it talks about when you cook it, for example, how is the complexity, rehydration time, appearance, texture, cost, weight, and typical shelf life. So it gives you kind of a way of looking at it and planning your own meals so that you have something real good to come up with. Let me see here. Yes, spices do make a big difference. Okay, then on pages 66 through 69, he talks about sanitation and sewage. Let me tell you something. If there is one fear that I have in a post SHTF environment, having seen the sewage systems back up during Katrina, Rita, and Wilma, and knowing that people are exposed to raw sewage, and the diseases that it can cause, that is what scares me the most. And so making sure, and on pages 66 through 69, he talks about that. He talks about how do you dig a cat hole? How far away from your water source, down hill from your water source, and how do you dispose of waste, both human waste and as well as the waste you're going to generate as far as trash. And so all those things kind of have to be taken into consideration in a post SHTF environment. And so I'm just I want to have as many contractor bags and big bags for our trash. And then I've got all these biohazard bags for our luggable loo, which is an indoor toilet. And then I have a composting system for that so that once we go to the luggable loo, and we're going to separate the liquid from the solid, then that solid can then be composted and stored a little bit safer than it would be with just raw sewage. So, come up with a plan on how you're going to take care of sanitation, trash, uh, sewage, and things like that, because that's going to be extremely important to you. Wow. No, we eat that regularly here. That's one of our favorites. Canned tomato soup and grilled cheese sandwiches. We probably do that at least once a week here. Um, yeah, and that makes sense because everything goes down. It's going to seek its lowest level. And you were safer when you were up above, but now that you're down below, all those other people's is going to come down to you. I'm scared about my next door neighbor. I've got it well under control. I know what I'm going to do, but I don't know what they're going to do. That scares me. And so, that's where this comes in. Having make sure you have a good antibiotic regimen available to you in case you're exposed to it. I don't know if you saw the Alaska Prepper video he did today. It was about an 18-minute video, and he had a letter from a lady whose child needed an antibiotic. I can't remember whether it's amoxicillin or doxycycline, but one of the two. Wherever they live, there was none in town, and it was the one that's being prescribed to the child. And then they said, okay, well, the doctor said, well, we can prescribe azithromycin in its place. So they did find azithromycin. Well, I'm up Schitt's Creek with that because I'm allergic to azithromycin. I go into anaphylactic shock with it. So having my own antibiotics is going to be critical for me. So I want that for me and every member of my family. Uh, so Susan says, sanitation and sewage is a toughie. Nothing can bring about health problems faster than poor sanitation and proper sewage. You are so right, and it scares me to death. That's one of my biggest. Hi, Prepper Book Club. And what we had for dinner, believe it or not, we were walking through, it was either Sam's or Costco. I don't know which one. And there was a sale, $10. And like I said, I've been storing lentils since at least 1984. Never had them until tonight. Oh, so I have this in my prepper haul stash here on the counter so I can show it to you. But this is what we had for tonight. It was $10 for 8 pouches. Each pouch makes 2 servings of Madras lentils, red beans, and spices simmered in a creamy tomato sauce. Fantastic. So we now have one of those quick. All we have to do is make 2 cups of rice. This gets in the microwave for 1 minute, and puff, we've got a complete meal. So it tastes great. It tastes just like chili. So it's chili without beans, or I'm sorry, chili without meat. Okay, so Navigating Nonsense said that the kid needed amoxicillin. So, there's a shortage happening near you. I was really surprised. I was going frantic. I could not find my EpiPen. And so when I went to the allergy clinic last week. I said, "Hey, I've lost my EpiPen. I can't find it. Can I get another prescription?" He said, "Well, we gave you a refill on that one." I said, "Oh, thank God." So I went to HEB and got a refill, my refill on my EpiPen, and so I feel a lot more secure now because I have all these allergies, and so I got to be concerned about that. But anyhow, let's get back in here. Let me see what we got here. Uh, okay, so basically, you've got a homemade septic system, is basically what you're saying. Uh, Look at this. Yeah, there you go. Uh, okay, navigating the nonsense. Do me a favor and send me your mailing address. We'll get that taken care of for you. Um, so it's Cold War Prepper at Outlook.com. Fish Mox is for fish, but it's exactly the same as amoxicillin for humans. Dr. Bones, Joe Alton, and Nurse Amy, they have in the back of one of their books, and it might be the very first book, they have an equivalency chart on that, discussing that very thing. But yeah, there has all four of the major brands that are available and how to do it. Okay, so now let's get back into here. And after sanitation and sewage, we start talking about water storage and sanitation. And so, he's talking about primarily, making sure you have stored water, you have treated water, and the sources of contamination for water and the different diseases that are contained in bad water. And he talks about the different kinds of protozoa, bacteria, and viruses that are available in the water and how to remove them. And there's a fantastic chart in here on page, let me find it here. Here we go. So first, before that, here's the amount of bleach that you need to purify water, to get rid of the protozoa and the bacteria. And then he talks about comparison of different purification methods, starting off with boiling at the very top. And he goes through, the different things. Will it neutralize pathogens, remove particulates, remove chemicals? Will it affect taste? Is it potable or portable? And then any side notes that he has. Now, remember, the one thing that you're probably going to be most concerned with current events is making sure you remove nuclear fallout from your drinking water supply as well. So that's going to just be a simple filtration system. For that, you could probably just filter it using a coffee filter. And most of the nuclear radiation in the fallout is going to be about the size of large dust particles. So if you're using a coffee filter, a number 4 cone coffee filter or whatever, and filter your water first before you purify it, chances are you're going to remove the vast majority of fallout from that water. And then you can go through your standard water purification methods. So he does say that boiling is the best, but it removes some of the taste. So making sense of filters. So, right now there's a big stink going on with one of the major water purification companies, Berkey Filters. There are some accusations that they have misrepresented the quality of their product. And so that's in litigation right now. I'm a distributor or an affiliate for Berkey. I think it's a fantastic product. I have not yet tested it in a contaminated environment. I don't know whether or not the allegations are true or false. I'm going to take it for what it is right now and say that the company probably, I don't think any company especially one that wants to have the reputation and be called the king of water cleaning, would intentionally put out false information about their water purification capabilities. Because if that is true and it's found out to be true, they might as well shut their doors. Nobody will ever buy from them again. So for right now, I would steer away, unfortunately, as long as the contentions are out there, and look for other sources. And there are other great water purification companies out there. Hello, who's your prepping nurse? You can use colloidal silver. And so first you have to take your pure silver, convert it into colloidal silver, and then there's a methodology for using colloidal silver. I'm going to tell you, with the cost of silver, I would much rather just spend the money in a Survival Filter Pro, or LifeStraw. LifeStraw has a fantastic, that gets down to half a micron, that camping bag that you can hang from a tree, and it can do like 5 gallons at a time, and it has 500,000 gallons life of it. So I think there's all kinds of ways to do it that are probably, you're going to get a far better and easier way of purifying water with a manufactured system than trying to manufacture your own colloidal silver and then use that. So my personal opinion, for what it's worth. Okay, let's see. I think that's pretty much it. He talks about rain collection, snow melting, dew collection, and a solar still to collect water in case you don't have those. And right now here in Central Texas, we have a drought. What we say here in Texas is the way to end a drought is a flood, and the way you end the flooding is with the drought. So we don't have anything in between. We either have too much water or not enough water. That's just the way it is in Texas. Don't know the efficacy of that. I mean, I'm not going to say yes or no, because I really don't know that much about it. But I will tell you that silver is far more precious now than it was back then. I'll give you an example. I have as a habit, I've been buying an American Silver Eagle of the date of the date that's the birth date for my daughter, my son-in-law, and all of my grandchildren. So the last American Silver Eagle I bought was for Strat, and that was 2 years ago. So that was 2020. So he was born in 2020, and that cost me $1,750. To get an American Silver Eagle right now, they are not, you can't find them. Number one, they're in great demand. When you can find them, they're $4,250 for an American Silver Eagle. So I don't know. Do you want to take that and then put that into a canteen? That's on something that's untested and we don't have any information about. I would really research that online, see if there are other people that have other solutions for you, because this seems extremely expensive, and I don't know the efficacy of it. So how's that? For the people that have stated that there is bacteria, I'd like to know the meaning techniques that they use if there is a chance that they cross-contaminated. Are you talking about water? Amen. Very wise of you, Dragon Slayer. I can't encourage that enough. And that I kind of talked about that at the very beginning. Make sure you have good soil, good seeds, and you want heirloom seeds. Good soil, some sort of fertilizer. And then if, for example, we get cabbage worms here quite a bit. So I have 2 bottles of my cabbage worm edible insecticide, things like that. So those things that you're typically going to have that you would have for your garden, make sure you have a year or two supply of those. That's going to do you just as good as anything I'm aware of. Um, okay, my prepper journey. Have a good one. Please stay safe. But we're pretty much at the end. Does anybody else have any other questions? So you are talking about water purification in the Berkey. I don't know. I really don't know. I would like to see a little bit more on it. There have been accusations made. I haven't seen any proof behind the accusations that have been made. So, we're kind of sitting here in limbo. We would like to see, number one, uh, are they valid accusations? And then if they are, number two, what the company's going to do to make it right. So I don't know. We're kind of in limbo now with both sides of that. And, I'm sorry, but with the reputation Berkey has, I just can't see them uh, irresponsibly and intentionally um, falsifying scientific data that would be very easy to disprove if somebody really wanted to. So that's kind of where I am. Okay, so next week, same bat time, same bat channel. We're going to discuss chapters. Let me get down here, 5 and 6, and we're going to talk about shelter, and we're going to talk about light. And so I stopped by the Dollar General store today and bought 2 more of these. This is a 24-hour candle, so that's one of my light things. But so that's going to be our discussion next week. Anybody have any closing thoughts? I'm discombobulated because I've been sitting over there with my back against the outside wall that goes to the outside door. And so this was on my right-hand side. Now I'm facing west instead of north. And so everything's kind of a little bit out. This is where I originally had my setup. And I just wanted to get back over here and get the plant behind me and, the picture and a little bit of St. Francis and things around me so that things are looking good. Okay, let's go to Numbers and we'll close this thing out. Thank you, LG. Appreciate that. And Linda, thank you for being here. Well, thank you, all of you, for being here. I so much appreciate it. If you can spare self-rising flour, sprinkle on cabbage for cabbage worms. They will. Oh, wow. Wow, thank you. I'll have to try that. Hi, Zombie Prepper. I will definitely have to try that. Zombie Prepper, there's another good channel. So LG, if you would put his link up there, that's another one of my favorites that I enjoy watching. So Numbers chapter 6, verses 24, 25, and 26. This is how you shall bless the Israelites. Say upon them, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord let his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord look upon you kindly and give you peace. So remember, we're all in this together, so we can come out the other side together. Please be kind, polite, and respectful to each other, because togetherness is the key. And this is the season of love. So love your neighbor as yourself. Take care. Bye-bye.